Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are staring down the barrel of a number so large it effectively ceases to be money and starts becoming something more like gravity. $2.6 trillion.
It's a staggering figure. I mean, to put that in perspective for everyone, that's roughly the entire GDP of France.
The entire economy of France.
Moving hands in the global corporate market in a single year.
That's the global volume of M&A mergers and acquisitions that hit the tape in 2025. We're talking about the highest level of, deal-making frenzy since that post-pandemic sugar high of 2021.
Right.
But here's the thing that I want to challenge right out of the gate. Usually when we see numbers like this, the headline is, greed is back. It's bankers chasing bonuses, it's consolidation for the sake of monopoly.
The usual story.
But looking at the source material you brought today, this feels different. It doesn't feel like optimism. It feels like panic.
You've hit the nail on the head. If you look at the sentiment analysis from the boardroom transcripts we reviewed, the mood isn't let's conquer the world. It's if we don't do this, we die.
Wow.
We're calling this a systemic mandate. For the last few years, we were in a period analysts called capital-constrained caution. Interest rates were up. Everyone was sitting on their hands.
No waiting.
Now, we have shifted, and violently, into what we're calling intelligence-led deal-making.
Intelligence-led, meaning AI.
Entirely. But it's not just tech companies buying other tech companies. That's the surface level. The real story here is the industrial logic. We're seeing a structural transformation of the economy where companies are realizing that AI isn't a software patch you install. It's a new operating system for the entire market. And if you don't own the infrastructure, the talent, or the data to run that OS, well, you're obsolete.
It's a resource war. And that explains the core tension in the data, doesn't it? On one hand, you have this $2.6 trillion spending spree.
Unprecedented.
On the other hand, 71% of the executives surveyed are screaming that we're in an AI bubble and that valuations are, and I quote, detached from reality.
It's a complete paradox.
It's, this asset is overpriced and I'll take two of them, please.
It's the classic prisoner's dilemma played out with 11-figure checks. They know it's a bubble, but they also know the cost of missing the boat is infinite. The FOMO here isn't about missing a stock bump. It's about existential risk.
So for this deep dive, we're going to spend the next 40 minutes or so unpacking not just the who's buying whom, but the what and the how.
And that's the crucial part.
Because the what isn't just lines of code, it's concrete, it's copper, it's megawatts of power. And the how.
Well, that's the part that really unnerved me. We're going to talk about algorithmic arbitrage, the reality that AI agents are now effectively negotiating the purchase of other AI agents.
It is the meta layer of the economy emerging in real time. But before we get to the robots signing the contracts, we have to look at the scoreboard.
Right. Let's start with the anatomy of this gold rush, the return of the mega deal. And just so we're all clear on terms, when we say mega deal in this context, we aren't talking about a garden variety billion-dollar acquisition. No, this is a whole different league. We're talking about the $10 billion plus Leviathans.
And in just the first 9 months of 2025, we saw 27 of these.
27. That is a density of capital deployment we rarely see outside of, extreme economic shocks or world wars. And look at the names. This isn't just Silicon Valley.
No, definitely not. The one that dominated the headlines and I think shocked a lot of people was the Electronic Arts deal, EA.
That was a monster. A consortium led by Silver Lake, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, Affinity Partners.
Taking EA private, the valuation was widely reported at around $55 billion.
Which, if it closes, creates potentially the largest leverage buyout in history. It would surpass the TXU Energy deal back in 2007.
Okay, but let's peel that back. Why EA? Why pay $55 billion for Madden and The Sims? I mean, it's not because they want to sell more video games, is it?
Not at all. That's the surface story. The real prize, the hidden asset they were buying, is the simulation data.
The simulation data.
Precisely. If you are building agentic AI, these are the advanced models that can navigate complex 3D environments, plan strategies, interact with humans. Where do you train them?
Not in the real world.
You can't. You can't train a self-driving car purely on public roads. You kill people. You can't train a negotiation bot in the real UN. You have to train them in high-fidelity simulations. And EA, well, they own some of the most sophisticated physics and behavioral simulation engines on the face of the earth.
So Silver Lake isn't buying a game studio. They're buying a synthetic data generator, a training ground for AI.
That is the thesis. They are buying the digital sandboxes for the next generation of artificial intelligence. It's a pure platform acquisition, and we see the same logic replicated everywhere. Look at Union Pacific buying Norfolk Southern.
Okay, now hold on. That one feels different. That sounds like old school industrial consolidation. Trains. I mean, trains are about as far from an agentic AI as you can get, or am I missing the link?
You're missing the supply chain link. Autonomous supply chains are the holy grail of logistics AI. But software can't move atoms. It needs a physical world to operate in.
Right.
By consolidating the physical rail networks, Union Pacific creates a unified data layer for pretty much the entire eastern and western United States. If you want to deploy an AI that optimizes freight across the continent in real time,
You need a single control plane.
exactly, this merger provides the physical tracks for a single digital brain to manage.
Eh,
It's a massive infrastructure play disguised as a railroad deal.
that puts a completely different spin on it. It's not just about a monopoly on rail, it's about creating a monopoly on the data of physical goods movement.
And that data is what you feed the AI. Then, of course, you have the more obvious tech deals, Alphabet, Google dropping $32 billion on Wiz.
Cloud security. That one makes sense on the surface. Google Cloud needs to compete with Amazon and Microsoft on security.
It does, but again, think deeper. It's about visibility. Wiz's whole selling point is that it gives you a single view of your entire cloud environment. As companies deploy more and more AI agents across different clouds, that kind of unified visibility isn't a feature anymore. It's a necessity.
So you can see what your AIs are actually doing.
And secure them. You're buying the control tower for your AI fleet. And then there's Synopsys bidding $32.5 billion for Ansys.
Now this one is critical, I think, because it's a step even further back in the supply chain.
It is. So, for listeners, Synopsys makes the software that helps design computer chips. Ansys makes the software that simulates physics fluids, structures, electronics.
So again, it's the same theme as EA, but for engineering.
Exactly the same theme. If you want an AI to design a better, more efficient chip or a more aerodynamic airplane wing, that AI needs a physics engine to test its ideas, millions of them per second.
So Synopsys designs the chips and simulates them, merging them.
Merging them creates a closed loop for AI-driven hardware design. The AI can iterate on a design, test it in the Ansys simulation, get the feedback, and iterate again, all within a single software environment. The speed is unbelievable.
So the entire strategy has shifted. It's moved from acquiring growth, like users and revenue, to acquiring capability.
That's the perfect way to put it. A few years ago, you bought a company because they had 10 million users and you wanted to cross-sell them a credit card.
Right.
Now you're buying companies that have a specific, hard-to-replicate technical capability that you simply cannot build fast enough in-house.
It's the classic buy versus build equation, but the variable has changed.
The variable is time. It's all about speed. In 2015, if you needed a cloud team, you could spend 2 years hiring the right people and building it from scratch. In 2026, the AI models are improving so fast, I mean literally week by week, that if you spend 2 years building a team, you are 3 full generations of technology behind by the time they even start.
You're already dinosaurs, so you have to buy the team. The acqui-hire is back with a vengeance.
It never really left, but the price tag per head has just exploded. We aren't talking about buying a startup to get 20 decent Java developers anymore.
Yeah.
Companies are buying entire firms, sometimes for hundreds of millions of dollars, just to secure 5 or 6 individuals who truly understand the deep architecture of these new agentic AI systems and foundation models.
Is the scarcity really that acute?
There are perhaps a few thousand people on the entire planet who really truly understand this stuff at a foundational level. If they're all working for some small startup, you buy the startup. You don't even care about their product. You care that those 5 brains are now on your payroll and not your competitors.
Which brings us right back to the panic. The 451 research note we looked at mentioned that boards of directors are effectively holding a gun to their CEOs' heads.
That's not an exaggeration.
The message is, we have an AI roadmap on a PowerPoint slide, but we have no actual AI in the product. Fix it, or we find a CEO who will.
That is the systemic mandate in action. But here's where the rubber really meets the road, or maybe where the electron meets the silicon. You can buy all the brainpower you want. You can buy the smartest algorithms. But AI needs a body. It needs a physical place to live.
The infrastructure. This was the part of our deep dive that felt the most like a gold rush to me. Not the gold itself, but the picks and shovels. We're seeing this massive pivot of capital into what used to be the most boring assets on Earth, data centers and power plants.
The real estate and infrastructure funds are calling this rapid asset class maturation, which is, a very polite Wall Street way of saying unprecedented land grab.
Right.
But listeners need to understand a crucial technical nuance here. Not all data centers are created equal.
This is a really important point. I think most people, myself included sometimes, visualize a data center as just a big air-conditioned warehouse with some blinking lights. If I buy a 10-year-old data center, can't I just plug in the new NVIDIA chips?
Absolutely not. And that fact alone is driving a huge amount of M&A activity. The issue is power density.
Power density.
In the cloud era, the Amazon AWS era, a standard server rack might draw, say, 5 to 10 kilowatts of power. That's manageable. You can cool that with fans air cooling.
Okay, 5 to 10 kilowatts. Got it.
The new clusters, the NVIDIA Blackwells and their successors, are drawing 50, 60, sometimes over 100 kilowatts per rack.
100 kilowatts in a single rack.
If you put that inside a data center that was built in 2020, you would literally melt the cables in the wall. You would certainly overwhelm the cooling system.
So you can't just blow more cold air on it.
You need liquid cooling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, direct-to-chip plumbing. Water or other coolants being piped directly onto the processors.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental architectural shift from an IT problem to a mechanical engineering problem.
So an obsolete data center isn't just old, it's physically incapable of hosting the new tenant. It's like trying to land a 747 on a runway built for propeller planes.
It's a teardown, or at the very least, a massive multi-million-dollar retrofit. And that is why we see companies like Nokia spending $2.3 billion to acquire Infinera.
That's a deal about connectivity, right? The pipes between the data centers.
Exactly. It's not just about the power inside the building. It's about the optical networking gear that can handle the sheer speed and volume of data moving between these hot, dense racks. The pipes need to be bigger and faster.
And the electricity bill. I mean, we've talked about AI energy usage on the show before, but the M&A market is now treating power generation like it's the most precious resource on the planet.
Because it is the bottleneck. It is the single limiting factor. The thing that will slow down the arrival of artificial superintelligence isn't code. It's the waiting list to get a grid interconnect permit in Northern Virginia or rural Georgia.
That's an amazing thought.
And it's why we are seeing this complete convergence between big tech and big energy.
The Constellation Energy deal for Calpine, $26.9 billion. That's a huge utility deal. Why is the valuation so high all of a sudden?
Because Calpine has dispatchable power, mostly natural gas.
Yeah.
Look, everyone wants to be green. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they all have these very public net zero pledges.
Right, they buy a lot of wind and solar.
They do. But you cannot train a foundational model on intermittent wind and solar alone. If the wind dies down for 4 hours in the middle of a 2-week training run, you can't just pause it. The complexity and cost of pausing and restarting those jobs is astronomical. You need baseload power. Power that is there 247 guaranteed.
So tech companies are effectively underwriting the M&A for the utility companies by signing these massive long-term power deals.
Or they're just buying the power plants themselves. We're seeing oil and gas majors pivot here too. They are divesting their high-carbon assets and aggressively buying up renewable developers, EV infrastructure, and smart grid tech. They know their biggest future customer isn't a driver at a gas pump, it's a server farm in Texas.
It's incredible. The future of artificial intelligence is literally being written by companies digging trenches for high-voltage cables and pouring concrete for substations.
If you can't power the chips, the AI is a paperweight. That's the brutal reality. Private equity deal teams now have electrical engineers on staff. They're looking at grid access and on-site generation capabilities before they even look at the P&L statement of a target company.
Okay, so we have the desperate demand, we have the scramble for infrastructure, and that inevitably leads us to the prices. We mentioned the bubble fears earlier.
We did.
The data shows EBITDA multiples are averaging around 6.5 times generally, but in tech, they are just astronomical. And buyers are paying these huge control premiums, 25 to 40% over the public trading value, just to take control.
The control premium is the price of certainty. It's paying extra to take the asset off the table so your competitors can't have it.
But how do they justify it to their shareholders? I'm looking at these synergy claims, the classic CFO line, we're paying $30 billion, but don't worry, we'll unlock $5 billion in synergies.
Right, the classic 1 + 1 = 3 argument.
We know historically that's usually nonsense. I mean, the data suggests 70 to 90% of deals fail to hit those synergy targets. Is this time really different?
Well, they claim it is. The narrative has shifted. It used to be about cost synergies. which is just a nice way of saying you're firing the redundant HR department and merging offices.
Right, cutting costs?
Now it's all about revenue synergies driven by AI. The argument is, if we inject our proprietary AI model into this acquired company's unique data set, we can invent entirely new product lines that never existed before.
So it's not 1 + 1 = 3, it's 1 + 1 = 10.
That's the pitch. But the problem is, the complexity of integrating AI systems is orders of magnitude harder than merging two email servers. You're trying to merge probabilistic models, different data taxonomies, competing engineering cultures. 67% of deal makers cite this integration complexity as their single biggest fear.
So if you're a board member and your CEO comes to you wanting to spend $50 billion based on a maybe, how do you not get sued for negligence when it goes wrong?
This is where the financial technology has had to evolve to keep up. We're seeing the rise of a new tool, the overpayment risk score, and it's powered by Monte Carlo simulations.
I love this concept. For the listener who hasn't touched a statistics textbook since college, or maybe ever, can we just break down what a Monte Carlo simulation actually does in this context?
Of course. Think of it like Doctor Strange in Infinity War, looking at 14 million possible futures to find the one where they win against Thanos.
Okay, great analogy. I'm with you.
In a traditional Excel spreadsheet, you assume a straight line for the future. Revenue will grow 5% a year, forever. It's a single guess.
Which is always wrong.
Always. In a Monte Carlo simulation, you don't use single numbers. You define variables with ranges and probabilities. You say interest rates might be 4%, but there's a 10% chance they spike to 8%. Our main competitor might launch a rival product in Q1, or maybe Q4. The AI regulation bill in Congress might pass, or it might fail.
So you're mapping out all the uncertainties.
Exactly. Then, the computer runs the entire business scenario 10,000, 100,000, a million times, and each time it randomizes all those variables within the ranges you set.
So it generates a map of all the possible outcomes, from best case to worst case.
And it gives you a probability curve. It doesn't just give you one answer. It tells you, in 60% of these 10,000 possible futures, you lose money on this deal at this price. That 60%. That is your overpayment risk score.
That is a powerful tool. It's not a crystal ball, but it's a hell of a weather forecast.
And right now, for many of these big AI deals, the forecast is stormy. The risk scores are high. But again, companies are ignoring the rain because they're terrified of the flood. They would rather overpay and survive than save money and vanish.
Now, speaking of simulations and algorithms, we have to arrive at the meta layer. Section 4 of our dive, we've talked about humans using spreadsheets to buy AI. Now let's talk about AI helping humans buy AI, the algorithmic arbitrage.
This is, to me, the most profound shift in the day-to-day mechanics of Wall Street and deal-making. Traditionally, deal sourcing, finding the company to buy, was purely a relationship game.
The Rolodex era. Golf tournaments, steak dinners, knowing a guy who knows a guy.
Exactly. It was incredibly inefficient and deeply biased.
Yeah.
You only saw the deals that your personal network happened to show you. Now, we have moved to what we call unstructured data sourcing.
Unstructured data. So we're not just scanning Bloomberg terminals for stock prices and press releases anymore.
No. We are scanning the beautiful chaos of the open internet. AI agents are scraping GitHub repositories. They aren't looking for financial reports. They're looking for code velocity. The AI flags something and says, hey, this small unknown startup in Estonia just had a massive spike in code commits on their public repo at 3 in the morning, and the algorithmic quality of that code is in the top 1% globally.
It's spotting the engineer who's having a breakthrough moment in their garage before they've even incorporated the business.
Precisely. It scans patent filings the second they hit the database. It analyzes employee sentiment on LinkedIn and Glassdoor. It sees signals like, why are 5 senior AI engineers from Google Brain suddenly connecting on LinkedIn with the founder of this tiny 10-person company? That's a signal that something's about to happen.
That is just incredible. It's digital detective work at a scale that no human analyst or even a team of analysts could possibly match.
The private equity firm EQT has a well-known platform they built called Motherbrain. It sounds a bit sci-fi, but it's very real.
Motherbrain.
They claimed that 30% of their recent investments, billions of dollars of capital, were sourced directly through this algorithmic platform. Deals that no human banker would have ever found.
And it doesn't just stop at finding the deal, does it? It's the due diligence process, too. This is the part that usually kills the junior analysts, the 100-hour weeks reading thousands of pages of boring contracts.
We are seeing, on average, a 75% reduction in diligence hours for specific tasks. What used to be a 40-hour slog becomes a 10-hour review. But let's be specific about what the AI is actually doing. It's using NLP natural language processing to read thousands of contracts instantly.
So if I'm buying a software company, I need to know if their customer contracts are solid.
Right. You need to look for things like change of control clauses. Basically, if this company gets bought, can the customer just walk away from their contract?
Oh.
The human analyst gets tired. They miss things after reading 500 pages. An AI scans 5,000 contracts in minutes and highlights the 7 specific contracts that have risky language.
But it can find other things too, liabilities.
It flags uncapped indemnities,
Yeah.
basically. Where are the unlimited lawsuits hiding in these documents? And then there's the technical debt analysis you mentioned in the outline.
Right, scanning the code base itself.
This is huge. You might buy a company that looks great on the surface. Beautiful app, great UI. But underneath, the code is what engineers call spaghetti. It's a mess held together by duct tape.
A ticking time bomb.
A huge one. An AI can read the entire code repository and give you a report. This architecture is fundamentally unscalable. If you try to double the number of users, the whole thing will crash. That insight alone can save you from buying a billion-dollar lemon.
But there's a darker, or at least a more invasive side to this analysis too. Cultural diligence. You're telling me they're analyzing employee emails.
It's a very sensitive area, but yes, it's happening. Cultural clash is the #1 reason post-merger integrations fail. If you merge a fast-moving cowboy startup with a rigid, slow-moving bureaucracy, everyone quits within a year.
So AI helps predict that.
It analyzes the anonymized metadata of communication. It's not necessarily reading the content like Bob hates Alice. It's analyzing the flow. Who talks to whom? Is the organization siloed? Is it hierarchical or flat? It maps the true social graph of the company, not the org chart.
So I can come back and tell you, don't buy this firm, the vibe is off.
Or, more constructively, if you do buy this firm, you need to ring-fence the engineering team and leave them alone, or they will revolt. It gives you a roadmap for the human integration, which is often the hardest part.
Which leads us to the ultimate evolution of this. Agentic AI doing the valuation itself, not just running a simulation, but being an autonomous agent.
We are moving, and quickly, toward a world where a partner at a firm gives an agent a mission. Draft a first-pass valuation for Company X, run the Monte Carlo risks, scan their code for technical debt, and flag the top 5 legal liabilities in their contracts. And it comes back an hour later with a 20-page memo.
And here is the giant flashing red warning light for me. What if it's wrong?
That is the hallucination risk. And in a $50 billion deal, a single hallucination is a catastrophe.
I mean, if the AI misses a zero in a liability clause or adds one.
Or if it invents a revenue stream that doesn't actually exist because it misunderstood a sentence in a document. We have to remember, these AI models are probabilistic. They are making highly educated guesses. You cannot outsource legal liability to a chatbot. Right? If the deal goes south because the AI missed something, the board of directors goes to jail or gets sued into oblivion. You can't put the server rack in handcuffs.
So the human in the loop isn't just a nice-to-have feature. It's an absolute legal and fiduciary necessity.
Absolutely. You use the AI to do 95% of the grunt work. But a senior, experienced human must verify the critical data points before any decision is made.
And there are other external eyes watching too. Governments. The regulatory environment has shifted dramatically from laissez-faire to something more like a fortress mentality.
Governments have finally woken up to the fact that AI is a national strategic asset. It's the new nuclear technology. It's the new oil. You don't just let anyone buy it. And so we are seeing intense scrutiny on FDI, foreign direct investment.
The sovereign wealth funds, for example.
Exactly. If the Saudi PIF or a fund with links to China wants to buy a significant piece of a U.S. AI infrastructure company, the answer is increasingly no, or yes, but with massive crippling strings attached.
And the regulators are getting smarter.
That's much smarter. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFI-US, and the EU's new foreign subsidies regulation are acting as the gatekeepers. They are scrutinizing the entire chain of control.
It's not just about who signs the check anymore. It's about who holds the influence, however indirect.
Correct. If a foreign state entity invests in the private equity fund that then buys the AI company, does that give them access to the code? Does it give them a board seat? If the answer is even maybe, the deal can die right there.
So wrapping this all up, We have a market flooded with capital driven by existential panic. We have robots finding the deals, analyzing the code, and predicting failure. We have governments building regulatory walls around these strategic assets. Where does that leave the humans? Are the M&A bankers, the classic Wall Street dealmakers, going to go the way of the dinosaur?
I don't think they go extinct, but they absolutely have to evolve. I think we are seeing a great split. We're moving away from the science of the deal, the math, the sourcing, the contract scanning, which AI will automate, to the art of the deal in its purest form.
And what is the art of the deal in this new world?
Judgment, empathy,
Hmm.
and guts. An AI can calculate the probability of a merger succeeding to 3 decimal places, but it cannot sit in a room with a founder who has spent 20 years of their life building a company from nothing and convince them that their legacy is safe in your hands.
The vibe check.
The vibe check is fundamentally unautomatable. At the end of the day, these massive deals often come down to trust between two people. Do I trust this person to take over my life's work? An algorithm can't shake your hand. It can't look you in the eye.
So the future isn't AI replacing humans. It's AI-augmented superhumans running circles around the traditionalists who refuse to adapt.
That is the split we're going to see, the algorithmic dealmakers who use these tools to their advantage versus the dinosaurs who still rely on their Rolodex.
I want to leave the listener with a thought experiment that came up in our prep for this. As these agentic AIs get better, as they move from just analyzing the deal to actually being empowered to negotiate the terms, are we heading for a future where the buyer bot talks directly to the seller bot?
It's a fascinating, if slightly dystopian possibility. Imagine 2 AI agents negotiating a $50 billion merger in milliseconds, optimizing perfectly for tax efficiency, regulatory compliance, and post-merger synergy, with zero human ego or emotion involved.
Would that result in better companies? Or would it just create perfectly efficient, soulless monopolies?
That's the question. Efficiency is not always the same as value. And it certainly isn't the same as wisdom.
Something to think about the next time you see a headline about a mega deal. Ask yourself, did a human find this, or did an algorithm? And maybe more importantly, did a human actually bother to read the contract?
Always check the fine print.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious.